Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so the Lakers lose in New Orleans, 116-108, and this might have clinched our play-in hopes, given the fact that San Antonio Spurs are playing so well, and that we're neck and neck with the New Orleans Pelicans, of course, who we played. Um, the Lakers had a 23-point lead in this game where LeBron James just looked phenomenal to start the game. He was shooting the three ball about as well as we've seen him shoot it. Ended the game with 39 points, but did end up tweaking his ankle in that first half. And, he came back and kind of just played through it, no problem. But it is something to monitor going forward. Uh, honestly, man, I loved what I saw from Malik Monk. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had 23 points, 6 assists. Um, you saw Austin Reeves rebound the ball very well in the first half, complimented LeBron James extremely well in that when LeBron was hot. Westbrook did some really good things as well, getting to the basket at a nice clip, hit some good rhythm 3-point shots that I thought really just helped the team a lot. Didn't have a whole lot to complain about in regards to him. I thought we did a good job starting Dwight Howard and Wenyen Gabriel, and I felt like our team getting out to a huge start really helped us get out to that big lead. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Lakers started the game at a 12-0-1. Yeah, it was something of that nature. Pelicans did not score the ball right away, um, but eventually started to chip away at it. BI started getting hot near the end of that first quarter and kind of segued them into the second quarter. Where we were able to, kind of build the lead off of Braun just being spectacular, um, and Malik Monk helping along as well. We were doing a lot of good things in that first half, you guys, but it just fell apart in the third. I'm not gonna lie, I missed the third quarter, not the entire third quarter, but I came in around the 8-minute mark of the third quarter, and we had our 20-point lead cut in half by the time I returned. And it was one of those situations where what I was seeing was Trey Murphy, the player that I've been telling everybody on our channel. Everyone who watches me knows about Trey Murphy, one of my favorite, if not my favorite rookie in the entire league this year. Is finally showing everybody what he can do, and he did just that against the Los Angeles Lakers in a big game in a big way. Um, Fourth for 7 3-point shots. I think he had 25 points, and just basically got all of them in the third quarter. Like, he just continued to go straight at us, shooting threes. His teammates did a great job of finding him, getting to the cup, just doing all the things that you want to see him do, complimenting BI and all of those different things as well. Um, you saw some really good things out of Jonas Valanciunas, who took advantage of the size mismatch. We found ourselves doing the things that I hate seeing us do. Having a switch in everything and ultimately finding those mismatches in the paint with a big, being able to shoot over one of our forwards or guards. Same stuff we see all year long. But you know what? I think tonight is one of those situations where it's almost like this is what it felt like to me. It's almost like Frank was trying to acquiesce to what it is that we, whomever, everybody who's been thinking the way that I've been thinking, has been saying, which is play Dwight Howard, right? So in the big game, he plays Dwight Howard, and I'm happy he did. I want to see Dwight out there. But my problem with Frank is that there's not any adjustments being made. There's no thought to what it seems like we're seeing. There's no applied thought to it. It's like, okay, it's reactionary. It's like, okay, you tell me to play him, I'm going to play him. Because if you don't tell me to play him and you allow me to think, I'm going to have us doing something else, which is like small ball, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost like Frank, when you want Frank to just see what it is that's going on and then react to that by putting players on the floor that can help with those things. He didn't do that tonight. It was more so him playing Dwight, right? He played players he thought he should play. And then when it came down to the end of the game, he played players he trusts, and it's like, bro, that is not thinking. That is not strategy. That is not putting yourself in a position to out strategize what is in front of you. You are using an applied thought in some other fashion other than what it is that you're supposed to be applying it for. You are supposed to be focusing on the Pelicans. The Pelicans, what they were doing tonight was putting players on the floor who could beat us to 50-50 balls. Okay? That's what you were seeing tonight. You saw Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Valanciunas, these guys, Najee Marshall, these guys were getting to loose balls. That's what you were seeing tonight. So what Frank needed to do was play a lot of Stanley Johnson, a lot of Wenyen Gabriel, a lot of Austin Reeves, THT, and possibly Braun. He should have had those players on the floor a bit more than he did. Obviously, Malik Monk needs to be thrown in there for offensive scoring purposes as well. But you needed that length on the floor to offset what was actually happening to you. You see what I'm saying? Rather than applying some thought that has nothing to do with what's in front of you in the biggest game of the season. You need to have your A1 game on point. And I felt like the players did. But the coach was not with us tonight. And it wasn't like I was sitting there just angry at him. That wasn't the vibe. It was more so, okay, we started off doing great, and I was texting my homeboy Abdul, and I said, okay, after one quarter, how is Frank going to affect the game? That was the question I posed to my buddy. How is he going to affect the game? And my guy was like, oh, we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be. I was like, no, there's 3 quarters left. What's going to happen here? If Frank does stuff that makes sense, we're going to be fine because the players showed up and their team didn't look like they were ready for us to start this game. We were fine. We got out to a 23-point lead, and I'm still asking myself, how is Frank going to react to this lead? Is he going to continue to keep his foot on the throat of the opponent, or is he going to take his foot off the gas and put players on the floor that he has no business putting on the floor? And like I said, when things started going bad, I unfortunately just did not see it. So I cannot comment on that. But I can tell you things went wrong. I could tell you when I got back, Trey Murphy was going off. And I could tell you that our lineups on the floor just did not reflect what was necessary for what it is that was happening to us. Herb Jones had 6 steals tonight. 6 steals. You know, and I just looked at lineups on the floor and I saw no one down there that could beat him to a loose ball. You know, we did not put those players on the floor. Stanley Johnson and Wenyen Gabriel, I think, had 19 and 18 minutes apiece against a team with a bunch of length and forwards all over the place. That's all they got is a bunch of guys like Wenyen Gabriel. And you didn't match up that way? You didn't think to put those type of players on the floor for the majority of the time? I don't mind you playing THT, and I understand Malik Monk has it going, so you got to figure that out. But you do not go with THT over Wenyen Gabriel with this matchup. You do not do that. You know, you don't do that. And that's exactly what happened tonight. He didn't put Stan out there enough, didn't put Austin Reeves out there enough. Austin Reeves was getting rebound after rebound after rebound. That's what we needed. I understand his 3-point shot ain't falling. I understand that he's not strong enough out there to really go up against guys. There are reasons, you know, we got flawed situations here. It's not like nothing's perfect, but we got to play to our strengths. And what got us into this position to be playing the way we've been playing over these last 5 games was giving ourselves a very healthy dose of Wenyen Gabriel, and Stanley Johnson for length, 50-50 balls, rebounding purposes, and you could see it every time we put them on the floor. It's just tougher for the offensive team to score on us. It's tougher. You know, you saw a situation where we had Dwight down there for the majority of the game, and down the stretch of the game in the last 2 minutes, we didn't have him out there for height. You saw a situation where I wish my memory served me correctly, but I think it was at the end of the 3rd quarter where they were on the march for their comeback, and we didn't have Dwight on the floor, and it came down to Valanciunas shooting a little jump hook over someone over in the paint. That stood out in my mind vaguely, but it's just the point. Like, these are the type of things that happened tonight where you just said your coach just needed to strategize differently, as we've said all season long. You know, and like I said, I hate to have to say this because I haven't been able, haven't had to say this for the past 2 games. To be honest with you, it hasn't. You know, I thought he coached pretty decent against Philly, but you know, he got back to the stuff that I just, you know, just can't get with, man. And it wasn't like he didn't go big, which is normally the problem. He just didn't go long, would be what I say. A lot of his lineups down there were not able to keep up. Like, the lineups aren't bad normally. Like, see, that's what I would say about this game. If he would have put those same lineups in against other opponents in various situations where he had different lineups in that I hated, I'd have been fine. This set of lineups generally work better than the ones he usually goes with. But you got to adjust to what you're looking at specifically for the team that you're going up against. And this was a different type of team. I guess is what I'm saying. Is this team is long. They're like Toronto. They have long players all over the place. They have defensive guys all over the place. You know, and like I said, Trey Murphy is such a volatile talent, as I like to call it. A young player who could at any moment could flash into whom they're going to be tomorrow and just play outside of themselves today. He's one of those guys, and he had one of those performances. You have to account for that. Normally, a guy like him is going to go for 2-3 points. You never see him. But tonight he stepped into who I think he's going to be 3, 4, 5 years from now. And that's just unfortunate for the Lakers, but that's what happens when you let games slip away throughout the course of the season. And it comes down to a situation like this, where you're sitting up against a bad New Orleans team and suddenly a rookie goes off. It's like, come on, man. You know, this is why you don't take possessions off. This is why you have to take the free throw line very seriously throughout the course of the season. Another problem the Lakers had tonight, 10 out of 16. That doesn't sound bad, but what is that? 62%. We got to shoot better, man. We got to shoot better from the line. There's no way we're going to beat teams if we don't take the line seriously, if we don't shoot the ball better, if we don't rebound the ball more so than the other team. Things that really the Lakers haven't done a good job of being consistent at all year. So to find yourself in a situation where you're having a big game like this, LeBron's going off in the first half, looking great. You're up by 23, and you still lose the game. B.I.'s coming back fresh from injury. They ain't seen him in a week, maybe even longer than that. Came in, played great against us, did exactly what you would expect him to do. You know, got to take your hat off to the opponent. C.J. McCollum, if I'm not mistaken, had 18 points. Played very well. You know, they just have a solid group of shooters, man. And that's another thing I wanted to iterate and reiterate. I did say that in the first video earlier, that they have a team full of shooters, man. You know, that you don't think of them as a team that can shoot, but you look up and you see Herb Jones has 3 3-point shots. It's hard to overcome that. When their best defensive player is also shooting treys, you got to see the upside of a New Orleans team. And that's what I've been trying to get you guys to see over the last couple of days since we've been talking about this team. They are not to be toyed with. You know, if they make the playoffs, they're not to be toyed with. Because they have some talent on this roster that wasn't a part of what it is they were doing at the beginning of the season. That's going to very much have something to do with what happens next. You know, you talk about Trey Murphy and C.J. McCollum and Alvarado. Even though Alvarado didn't play well tonight, he has been playing well quite a bit. You can't expect that he's going to have too many games like this going forward. So, the Lakers really hurt themselves terribly tonight. San Antonio is a young team that ain't taking their foot off the gas. They feel great about themselves, and they just beat this team last night. So, if I got to pick between the 3 teams, I got to figure it's us that's going to be left out. To be completely honest with you, we're certainly the worst team of the 3. You know, and I just say, you know, I got to say that Anthony Davis is out. You know, I got to tell myself that Kendrick Nunn, we gave him our mid-level exception. That's a big part of why we suck this year. You know, I can't just say, oh, it's Frank. Because that's exactly what I want to say. Because when I look at that roster, I say, man, we could have won this game tonight. We could have won this game tonight if this man would have put decent roster lineups on the floor. I like Carmelo as much as the next man, but I don't understand why the hell he's taking these shots at the end of the game. It's the biggest game of the season. You got him taking 3-point shots. He shouldn't even be on the floor. He's a role player for this team, you guys. I love Melo. I remember who he's been, but that is not who he is. Why is he taking these shots? That should be Malik Monk. That should be LeBron James. You know, you're talking about hot hands. THT, I love the hustle, brother, but we got to use our brain out there. Down the stretch of a game, you don't need to be diving for the ball when it's out on BI. It's out on BI. We got to read and assess the situation. We can't be so quick to hustle without realizing that we're hurting our team in the situation when we do it. I thought the referees were especially suspicious tonight. I'm not going to do too much talking about them. But that's about as much as I want to say. Leave it at that. But that's not why we lost. I think the Lakers lost simply because the coach just refused to match up properly. It wasn't necessarily about size. Can't say that. It was about length. You have to match up with length. You got to be able to identify when you got these long, lengthy Spider-Man type players on the floor. You got to be able to realize when you got these stretch arm, star arm dudes out there. B.I.'s one of them. Herb Jones is one of them. Murphy's one of them. They all got extra long arms, bro. You cannot have DJ Augustine out there with Russell Westbrook, you know, and then Dwight Howard. You know he's not going to be able to move like that, you know. And then I think it was Malik Monk, who has the shortest arm length on the team. And then he had somebody else, I think it was probably like Braun. It's like, bro, that is not how you match up against the New Orleans Pelicans. At all. You put Winion, Stanley, and all your lengthy guys on the floor to match up with Herb and B.I. I don't understand how this isn't common sense, man. You know, it's just so humiliating to watch this team have a 23-point lead in the biggest game of the season. See the effort of LeBron, and see guys diving, you see guys hitting shots, you see Malik Monk going off, continuing to increase his value. And then you look over at Frank, just thinking of all the worst stuff he can do to ruin all of it. You know, it's funny, because you see the Lakers playing well, and then you look over at him, you know he's coming up with something. You can just see it. It's in his head. He's like, God, how can I ruin this? I'm going to put in Carmelo Anthony. I'm going to remove Stanley. Got to get Winion out of there. You see Dwight playing well? I hate that. Get him out of there. Put in Melo. Like you could just see him going to ruin it. Sometimes I'm looking at guys in the free throw line. We'll be up by 15, and I'll look over at the coach, and I know he's going to do something. You know he is. You can see it on his face. He's going to do something to ruin that. And that has been the story all season long. What do we say, everybody? It goes like this. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. Frank is going to leave the door open for them. The question is whether or not they're going to walk through it. That has been the story all year long. Poor Bron, poor Malik, poor everybody on this team, poor us. We all suffer the mistake of not firing this man. And make no mistake, he ain't the only one that needs to be fired, because I'm looking at Frank Vogel and I'm also looking at Rob Pelinka. Rob, you left us yet again without what we needed to succeed. And granted, I like the pickups that we've had lately. I do. Every pickup that we have made has been solid. But the initial problems and mistakes that we made were so much that we couldn't overcome them. You know, I know it wasn't your job to fire the coach, and that was a big problem. That wasn't your job. That was on Jeannie. She has to suffer that, just like the rest of us. But those roster decisions, the inactivity in terms of getting us more Winion Gabriels and more size, getting those players off of the team sooner, removing some of those vets so that Frank couldn't play them. You see how much better the team has been playing since we removed some of those guys from that team? Yeah, that should have been done sooner by you. He shouldn't even had the option of putting some of those guys on the floor for them to not have any success. That should have never happened. Also, this team we have to devise ways of, um, and I know this is gonna sound silly, but this is a very, very important point going forward for next season, whether COVID protocol is a part of what's going on or not. This team has got to find a practice regimen that is consistent no matter what's going on. We can't have situations where you have a whole professional basketball season going on and your team ain't practiced but once or twice throughout the course of a 2-month period or a month period. I don't care what's going on, how many players hurt. I don't care none of that. There's no excuse for that. You are a professional basketball team. Practice is part of the job. How the hell is it not being done? I don't have an answer for that, but the amount of practice that this team had to start the season was staggeringly low, and I don't have an answer for it. I don't have an excuse for it, and it's a big part of why this team sucked so bad. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like teams pretty much falling out of playoffs. We pretty much have to win out to secure our situation, and quite frankly, we don't have much easier opponents than the one we saw tonight. You're talking about 2 Denver games. You got Utah coming up. You got Golden State. You got Phoenix. I mean, where are you going to let up? You got, if I'm not mistaken, you got another game against the Timberwolves. Somebody needs to tell me where it's going to let up. I think we got a nice game against the Thunder, against Shea and them, but guess what? They've beat us already twice. And if you have a play-in game against the Pelicans, which it looks like if we're lucky enough to make the play-in game, we definitely will, that game's going to be a smoothie king just like this one was. Nice fro, AD. That fro looks great, man. I like the fro. You know, this team is just at a space, man, where they're playing better. It's not like I'm down on the players. I'm still high on everybody who's been playing well over the last several games. I didn't really lose a whole lot of faith in the game tonight. I felt like the guys who would have done the best work just weren't on the floor to do it. And the guys who were on the floor, I'm not mad at those guys for being on the floor most nights. I just want to see them in situations where they can succeed. And I know that we have a very limited roster. Sometimes we need things on the floor that maybe take away from other things. So you gotta give and take. You gotta know what you can live without. And with this team, you can't. There's no room for error. You know, the room for error is so little. And I think that's something we need to understand. And the coach that we have, he was making all kinds of errors. Within this little short margin, he was all outside of that, coloring all outside. Like, you just can't have that. You know, you can't have that go on. And so I think blame is something that everybody's going to go to now. We're going to continue to blame people, but I just don't really know if there's any solution in pointing blame. We need more so just change. And we need precise and intelligent decision-making going forward from our front office. Our players are going to give us everything they got, but the front office needs to make good decisions. And ones that are efficient. You can't keep this coach, you guys. And not firing him was not harmless. I said that right after the trade deadline, and now that we've lost this game, I'm saying it now. That was a harmful decision, letting him play the season out. I believe we would have made the playoffs if he would have not been here. I think that I've documented my opinion on that and the reasons why that is every single game. Every game this season. I have given us more than one reason of why that is. And now that we're at the finish line, I just don't understand why people aren't gone. Truly. I don't understand why Frank isn't gone. When you get to this point, you see the ineptitude, you see the failure, you see the decision making. You see the load that players have to hold because of his decisions. The toll it takes on the roster, both physically and mentally, having to deal with a small ball. And you don't stop the bleeding. That's a story. Lakers never stopped the bleeding. They just let their situation bleed out. They put a Band-Aid on it here and there. You mean Stanley, hey, come on through. Winion, great, come on through. Those are Band-Aids. But they never stopped the bleed. They could have traded people to make things better for themselves sooner. They could have set people out to assure that people's health was secure for the offseason so they have better trade value. They could have made executive decisions to make the roster better sooner. There was so many different things that the Lakers could have did to salvage the season and give the fans and LeBron James the best opportunity at this championship, and they didn't do any of it. And that is why we lost today's game, and that is why we are going to do whatever it is that the Lakers do from here on out. This season was humiliating. Humiliating for us as a fan. For a fan base that is still grieving, we were just humiliated. That's what it is, man. So, if I'm going to give the game ball to anybody, I'm going to give it to my guy, Trey Murphy. Because he showed up in a big game as a young player who doesn't get a lot of time. And he showed everybody exactly who he is. And as he continues to show you all who he is, just remember that you heard it here. I don't know if I'm the first one to tell you, but I'm the one who's made it very clear. I think that kid is going to be very, very special. He's going to be one of the best shooters this game has in his generation. One of the best shooters. Mark my words. That's going to be one of the premier shooters in the game. So that's what I got to say about that, man. B.I., we miss you. Larry Nance, we miss you. It is what it is, bro. The Lakers suck. But it wasn't because their players didn't play well. It's because their coach got in the way of their success once again. LeBron James was spectacular tonight. I don't even know what to say, man. I got so many different thoughts about the situation, Bron, right at this point. So many different conflicting feelings about this situation. But at the end of the day, I just appreciate that we had the best player in the game. He put on our uniform. You know? He put on our uniform. That's something that a billion other squads all over the world would love to say. He wore their uniform. So whatever came with that, whatever didn't come with that, whatever, man. We got a championship with one of the greatest players ever played the game. Add him to our list. He's forever one of ours. Period. I wish we could have won more. I hope we can win more. But this season is a wrap. It's that simple. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.